All right, welcome to Broncos Country Tonight. Let's go ahead and take a look ahead at what we're hoping to see from the Broncos versus the Raiders. Final game of the season. We'll start on the offensive side here, Ben, because I think at this point, most people have come to the acknowledgement that there's a necessary process that has to happen with this team, more so than the result. I mean, there are going to be people rooting for wins or losses here. If it's a loss, great, draft position's better. If it's a win, there'll be people on the other side saying, oh, great that this team, hey, they ended on a positive note, you beat the Raiders. And I know you and I come down on the win side of that, but we can table that for a second here. Talk about what process we want to see from the offense, what development we want to see from the offense. I certainly hope, before we get to quarterback, let's talk about the receivers. I certainly hope Jerry Jeudy has a bounce back opportunity.
Yeah, I want to see no drops. Let's start with something basic. I want to see no drops. You could look at the quarterback position, and we talked about that ad nauseum, but you're not going to clean up Drew Lock's footwork from the Chargers game to this game. It's just not going to happen. That's an offseason thing. So what do I want to see? I want to see accurate passes, good decision-making, no drops, the little things, no unforced errors. If we were playing tennis, we'd call it unforced errors. No unforced errors. Right? You just go out there, do the little things right, and continue to put an offense on the field that's able to drive down and get points. Broncos are scoring more points these days. Now, it's not their fault that they've got kickers missing kicks. I think it's 8 points in the last 2 games left on the field just from the kickers. And then you've taken points off the boards with interceptions in the red zone. And fumbles that take you out of position. You're going to have to do the little things, not take yourself out of positions to get points, and keep putting points on the board. Keep chopping wood, is the old high school expression. Keep chopping wood, and eventually the tree will fall. That's what you need to keep doing.
Yeah, and I'm 100% with you. I mean, this is kind of more like, stay the course kind of deal. From the offensive line here, let's talk about that for a moment, because over the last 5 games, they've given up 1 to 2 sacks. In fact, even in this last game against the Chargers, a couple of sacks were on Drew Lock. He kind of got tackled as he's scrambling out right at the line. So they weren't necessarily all on the offensive line. But the last couple of games, you give it 15 pressures each game, and that's something that's been a tick up from what it had been. You were in single digits almost the last, at least last 4 weeks. So that's something for me that, whether it's as a result of Locke holding the ball or as a result of the offensive line, whatever they're doing, I'd like to see the pressures kind of just maintain. And if you're only giving up 1 to 2 sacks per game, that's a great trajectory even into next year. Because you remember the way they finished last year, they'd only give up 5 sacks while Drew Lock was in there in those 5 games. If you're averaging right around 1 sack per game, maybe even less next year, that's a really, really good thing to build on.
Yeah, and I think that's where you want to be. You want the offensive line to have faith their quarterback's going to get rid of the ball, but at the same time, you want a quarterback that's got faith in his offensive line to be able to hold up in protection if he needs to hang on to it. And that symbiosis has kind of been a back and forth a little bit over the course of the year. We saw Dotson come in, and that kind of helped stabilize a little bit on that right tackle position. Now Elijah's back in there, and he still struggles a little with the speed rush, but he's gotten a lot better than where he was at the beginning of the year. And so, I think overall, this offensive line has improved. Lloyd Cushenberry's obviously got to get in that strength and conditioning room this offseason, get stronger. He's got to be able to handle the bull rush. But, overall, this line, it looks pretty good going into next year. It's the best it's looked in quite some time.
I mean, how many times? And honestly, that almost sounds like a backhanded compliment, right? But, I mean, it's real. I mean, like it has looked consistent. There's been a consistent expectation that we've had. And I think if Broncos fans take a step back for just a second and acknowledge that you just wanted to see an offensive line that you could hang your hat on, that they were going to do something really well. There are things they are doing well, and they're bringing a level of consistency every single week out there in their performance. They got to get consistency everywhere else, but it's nice to see the offensive line not being the thing holding this team back right now.
Right, because if the offensive line can't block, then the rest of it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter
if receivers doing the routes right. Doesn't matter for giving effort. Doesn't matter if the quarterback sees it downfield. There's no time to make any of that happen. So it starts up front with the line, and they've pretty much held up their end this year. So now it's time for the rest of the offense to grow up, put on the big boy pants, come together, and take the next step. They're at the crawl phase. Let's start walking. Let's see them start walking in this game. I want to see them throwing the ball around, not where we're holding our breath every third down as fans. Like, are they going to make this one? Let's see them put it down, convert. I want to see a third down conversion percentage in the 70% range. I want to see an emphatic statement that when we need yards, we can get them. I also want to see a little bit more consistency and commitment to the run game. They kind of abandoned that against the Chargers a little bit, despite the fact they were gouging them. I want to see a little bit more commitment to dictating to a defense what it is that we're going to do.
Oh, you're 100% right. They were having a lot of success. 133 yards in the ground, averaging 4.8. That's pretty dang good. Melvin Gordon was averaging 4.9 all by himself. Since we're talking about things you want to see, I mean, whether it's realistic or not, I'd like to see Drew Lock no turnovers. Just one
Clean
game. They have not had one game this season with a quarterback without turnovers. I want to see one game as they close out the year, because you remember how much it meant to this team finishing out the way they did last year, playing as well. Drew Lock, 7 touchdowns, 3 interceptions in those final 5. He has not had a completely clean game just yet so far. The Raiders are not a kind of threat on the defensive side of the ball that you have to be so scared about, oh my gosh, they got all these ball hawks back there that are just looking for opportunities to pick me off. Play clean football, and you're going to put yourself in a position to win the game one way or the other. But if nothing else, you're going to bring confidence to yourself, to your team, because you see how the rest of them get all down as soon as he throws that interception in the red zone. They as a team, they all kind of go, here we go again.
Well, and that's the thing. Drew Lock brings the energy for that offense.
Right.
I talk all the time about him being a charismatic personality and a guy you just want to strap the pads on for. But when he does something wrong, the air goes out of the balloon for everybody. It's you kind of live by and die by that energy. As a quarterback carries you when he's energetic and up, when he starts beating himself up because he's making mistakes, it drags everybody else down.
And that's on both sides of the ball, actually. I mean, You see the defense; they even acknowledge that too.
Right. And there's a symbiosis there. So clean football, I'd love to see it. I'd love to see it. And what better team to do it against than the team you imploded against the last time throwing all those interceptions?
Yeah, and you'd like to think that the Broncos offense, I mean, really the entire team, but specifically the offense that threw 4 interceptions against them, right? You want to see them go out there and say, this is a divisional game that we should win. Yeah. And we're going to win because the Raiders are down right now, and I think you gotta take care of that.
7 straight last Week 17 losses for the Raiders, 9 of the last 10. Let's give them an even 10 here.